listening to Local News Live, a production of AOC Community Media in partnership with The Advocate, our local source of journalism and news reporting. We're thankful to be in partnership with The Advocate as they report all the news that's fit to print. I don't think that's their slogan. Anyway, we are also grateful to be joined by our dedicated volunteer reader. You hear her voice most Wednesdays and some other days here on Cypress Street Radio and AOC One and AOC Community Media's YouTube page. Danan, how are you this morning?
I am good this morning, Matt. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you so much for joining us to read the news. As you can hear, my neighbor is, another neighbor is actually weed whacking this morning, so I'm going to get off mic so that we can hear the news without the sounds of gardening, but I will be listening online. Thanks, Danan.
Thanks, Matt. It is June 3rd, 2020. Very happy birthday to my nephew, Taylor. And we're going to start off with Lafayette Consolidated Government information this morning, a story by Claire Taylor. Here we go. Lafayette Mayor President Josh Guillory warned city and parish residents of major impending budget cuts Tuesday in a news conference. Guillory said he has called for 20% budget cut reductions in all departments except police, fire, roads, and drainage. He said city parish government would be looking for $10 million in savings. Please excuse me this morning. Guillory also announced the immediate and sudden retirement of Gerald Boudreau, long-time Parks and Recreation Director. He said the resignation did not come as a surprise, but did not directly attribute Boudreau's retirement to rumors that Parks and Recreation would bear a disproportionate amount of reductions. The mayor-president said he spoke with Boudreaux on Tuesday morning, and they came to a realization that it was probably time to retire. He said the department needs a director who can bring in new, innovative ideas. Boudreaux served in Lafayette government for 36 years. He also is a state senator. Last month, Guillory announced the elimination of 101 jobs for a savings of $800,000. The jobs were in the Hyman Performing Arts Center, Science Museum, Acadiana Nature Station, and 3 senior centers. Guillory said Tuesday the facilities may be reopened in the 2020-2021 fiscal year, but discussions are underway for how to do that, possibly with public-private partnerships for the recreation centers, Hyman Center, and Science Museum. The cuts were needed, Guillory said, because of city and parish financial shortfalls caused in part by a loss of sales taxes from business closures ordered in March by the governor to curb the spread of the coronavirus. City and parish tax revenue has also taken a hit from job losses and business closures caused by the crisis in the oil field. Excuse me. At Tuesday's news conference, Guillory laid some of the blame on the prior city parish council, saying that body's budget decisions are costing the city of Lafayette $18 million in general fund balance. The city is losing another $10 million because of COVID-19 business closures and oil field layoffs. 60% of the city's savings will be depleted by the end of the current fiscal year on October 31, Guillory said. Even if sales taxes increase, he said, we're faced with spending half the fund balance this year. Guillory said government must live within its means and spend its money on core priorities. No decision has been made regarding closing recreation centers, he said, but everything is on the table. Asked about closing one or all 3 LCG golf courses, which lose as much money as the Hyman Center, Chief Communications Officer Jamie Angel said he expects a decision on golf courses shortly. Some of the $800,000 balance accrued through a 0.25 mil property tax for create culture, recreation, entertainment, art, and tourism will be used to improve parish parks, Angel said. Asked why some of the create money wasn't used to keep the Hyman Center staff on payroll so that events on the books through October 31 could go on, including several dance recitals, Angel said it would be a one-time fix that would not help in the long term. It would be like putting a little Band-Aid on a boo-boo that's bigger than the Band-Aid, Angel said. Before his election in November, Guillory campaigned on promises of smaller government, saying the only focus should be on roads, drainage, and public safety. Area officers are disciplined over social media posts on protest. 2 Acadiana law enforcement agencies are taking action against employees who wrote offensive social media posts about nationwide protests and riots following the death of George Floyd, an unarmed Black man killed by police officers in Minneapolis, agency leaders said. St. Landry Parish Sheriff Bobby Gidros confirmed Tuesday one deputy, Ronald Mills, 28 years old, was fired Monday, and another, 24-year-old Taylor Randazzo, resigned action over social media posts that involve criticism and derogatory comments regarding a particular class of people in our society. The sheriff said he doesn't have any tolerance for that. According to screenshots captured by KATC, Mills shared a photo of a semi-truck with blood on the cab with the caption, "Just drove through Minneapolis, didn't see any protesters," while Randazzo made a comment urging supporters of the riots to go burn down the projects where Black on Black crimes happen every day. The sheriff said the posts were in violation of a department policy that employees should not share communications that tarnish the department's reputation. Notes about the incidents will be added to both men's employment files, he said. Guidros said he did not have previous disciplinary issues with the two deputies, but their behavior was unacceptable and swift action was needed to send a message to other St. Landry deputies and the public that similar behavior will not be tolerated. He reiterated that position in a message to department staff. This is a very sensitive time when people are scared of law enforcement and want to be assured they're going to be safe talking to law enforcement. When they see this on social media from a police officer, they're scared, the sheriff said. Idris said law enforcement leaders need to guide change in the community, especially among Black residents and other people of color. The Black community is a big part of St. Landry Parish, and I certainly don't want Black families to be afraid of their sheriff in the department. I want them to have confidence in us and know they can call anytime and get help if they need it, Guidros said. In Breaux Bridge, a police officer is on leave pending an investigation into an offensive social media post concerning nationwide protests, according to a department statement. The officer was placed on administrative leave Tuesday following a call by Breaux Bridge Police Chief C.R. Rowley Cantu for an internal investigation into the post and possible policy violations. Assistant Chief Terry Latroile said in a statement Tuesday, excuse me, screenshots from the officer's profile showed a Facebook post reading, "You don't see them burning the unemployment office or the food stamp office," according to KATC. The officer has been identified online as Dustin Landrino. KATC reported the post was deleted and replaced with the statement, "So regarding the last post I posted, yes, I should not put that, and I deleted it immediately. Everyone knows I'm not racist. I treat everyone equally. For that, I deeply apologize." Latoile said it's possible the social media post could fall under the department's provisions for conduct on becoming an officer, but the relevant policies are still being determined. We're going to see if it's in violation of the public trust and if it's a racial issue. If it is a race issue, we will take the appropriate action, he said. We will not tolerate any kind of racism within the department, La Toile said. Louisiana coastline is in the pass of Cristobal. This is a story by Mark Schleffenstein. Buckle up. Forecasters expect that troublesome tropical storm Cristobal will deliver a risk of storm surge, heavy rainfall, and strong winds this weekend along portions of the U.S. Gulf Coast from Texas to Panhandle to the Florida Panhandle, including the Louisiana coastline. There's up to a 10% chance of tropical storm force winds arriving on the Louisiana coast, including New Orleans, by 8 p.m. Saturday, according to the National Hurricane Center. That's as far out as the center's projections go. But forecasters remain unsure exactly where the storm will make landfall. That's because Cristobal turns south toward the Mexico coast of the Bay of Campeche on Tuesday, steered by a large cyclonic atmospheric gear centered over eastern Mexico, said senior hurricane specialist Richard Posh in a 4 p.m. forecast discussion. The storm's slow loop should take the center over eastern Mexico on Wednesday or Thursday, Posh said. But whatever survives that brush with land will then be steered northward and will likely approach the northern Gulf Coast by the weekend. While many forecast models now have the strong landing on the Gulf Coast, they vary in both predicting landfall and intensity, with many showing Cristobal strengthening to no more than a strong tropical storm. A tropical storm has sustained wind speeds of between 39 and 73 miles per hour. Cristobal crossed that threshold Tuesday morning, just the second day of the 2020 Atlantic hurricane season. Cristobal became the third named storm of the season, the earliest date that milestone had ever been reached. Not mentioned in the forecast, but discussed by several research scientists during a Tuesday webinar, is the potential effect of a weakening swirl of deep, warm water that was once part of the Gulf Stream that runs from Central America to the East Coast. The loop current remnant could boost Cristobal's intensity. though it's still unclear whether the storm will track over the warmer water. What is clear is that Cristobal has already proven to be an efficient rainmaker in parts of Guatemala and El Salvador. It is expected to deliver as much as 25 inches of rain over parts of Mexico, which could result in life-threatening flash flooding and mudslides. Southeastern Louisiana is already seeing an increase in rain change. Typical summer atmospheric heating fed by moisture from the Gulf. On Tuesday afternoon, an emergency manager at the Michoud Assembly Facility in New Orleans East reported a funnel cloud had formed over lower Lake Borgne. That's an indication of how increasing Gulf moisture streaming into the atmosphere along the coast has caused it to become unstable and is likely to become a common occurrence over the next few days, said Robert Ricks, a meteorologist with the Slidell office of the National Weather Service, in an afternoon forecast discussion. The chance of rain in southeastern Louisiana will increase through the weekend and likely into next week, depending on how quickly Cristobal moves north, Ricks said. Some things that appear to be more certain: heavy rainfall potential will be on the increase with each passing day as the deeper moisture channel streaming from the circulation is squarely over Louisiana and southern Mississippi, Rick said. He said forecasters also will likely have to issue a coastal flood advisory by the weekend for less than 3 feet of tidal inundation along the coast. That might have to be replaced with coastal flood warnings as the storm gets closer. So efforts are underway to lower the Vermilion River. This is a story by Claire Taylor. With Tropical Storm Cristobal turning in the Gulf of Mexico, preparations already are underway to lower water levels in the Vermilion River to reduce flooding if the storm brings heavy rain to the area. Efforts began Tuesday to open gates controlling water at Bayou Cortebleau, said David Dixon, president of Dredge the Vermilion, and plans are to open gates at Henderson. Water will be diverted to the Atchafalaya Basin and Henderson Lake, lowering levels on the Vermilion River so it can better handle a deluge from the tropical system. The effort already is lowering levels on the Vermilion River, he said. Prior to Tropical Storm Barry in 2019, at the urging of Lafayette resident Harold Scheffler and others, the Teche Vermilion Fresh Water District stopped pumping water into the Vermilion River, which helped lower the Vermilion River. The gate at Henderson could not be opened at that time because water was too high in the Atchafalaya Basin, he said. During Tuesday's joint city and parish council meeting, and prior to the meeting at a news conference, Dixon and Scheffler, president and vice president of Dredge the Vermilion, urged Lafayette Consolidated Government to reconsider drainage projects that speed water to the Vermilion River, which gets overwhelmed and backs up into homes. In 2016, hundreds of homes in Lafayette Parish flooded when 3 days of heavy rainfall caused the river to overflow. Since then, LCG has planned and undertaken large and small projects. None of the approximately 77 projects identified, 27 of which are either underway or completed, address the largest drainage channel in the parish, the Vermilion River, its floodplain or retention areas such as Cypress Island Swamp, Dredge the Vermilion wrote in a letter to LCG officials. Two of the biggest problems, Dixon and Scheffler said, are that sediment has filled in parts of the Vermilion River, making it less able to carry water arriving from coulees and other drainage routes, and that widening and deepening Ile de Cannes coulee are dumping too much water into the Vermilion River. LCG is not only not fixing the problem, but they're contributing to the problem, Gordon Scheffler, attorney for Dredge the Vermilion, said. In a letter to LCG, Congressman Clay Higgins and the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, Dredge the Vermilion warned of legal ramifications if nothing is done to reduce the flooding threat. In February, In February, Higgins and the Corps released findings of a study that concluded the $150 million cost to dredge the Vermilion River is too high to protect only 200 homes from flooding. LCG's sandbagging locations are open during daylight hours. They are at 400 North Dugas Road off North University Avenue and 1017 Fortune Road in Youngsville. Bags and sand are provided, but residents must bring their own shovels and fill the bags themselves. Other sandbagging locations in Lafayette Parish, in Broussard, 310 East Main Street behind City Hall, or Deer Meadow Subdivision, which is the corner of Deer Meadow Boulevard and Mayette Point Street. In Karen Crow, you can go to the community center at 5115 North University Avenue. Vitalant begins testing all blood donations for antibodies to COVID-19. Today, Vitalant became the first national blood bank to test all blood donations for antibodies to SARS-CoV-2, the coronavirus that causes COVID-19. The nation's largest independent nonprofit blood collector, serving hospital patients in South Louisiana, is providing the test results to donors who complete successful blood donations, which are critically needed now. The antibody test authorized by the Food and Drug Administration will indicate if the donor's immune system has produced antibodies to the virus, regardless of whether they ever showed symptoms. It is possible that over time, the broad use of antibody tests and clinical follow-up will provide the medical community with more information on whether a person who has recovered from COVID-19 is at a lower risk of infection, and if so, for how long. For more information, visit vitalant.org/COVID-free. Donors are urged to give blood as soon as possible. Appointments are strongly recommended. Visit vitalant.org. That's VITALANT.org. Or call 877-258-4825. And that would be 877-258-4825. SLCC is to launch dialogue on race relations by Ken Stickney. Interim Chancellor Vincent June on Tuesday conceded his own anger and frustration at events last week in Minneapolis, where a Black man, George Floyd, died at the hands of local police, and vowed that South Louisiana Community College would hold civil collaborative campus conversations to further understanding about race relations. If we want to have change, we must be willing to have difficult conversations and truly hear one another. June said in a message to the campus, "Let's start a healthy dialogue around change and really listen and respect one another." Christine Payton, campus spokeswoman, said the final format for those structured conversations is not complete, but she said SLCC's Center for Minority Excellence was working on workshops and how to deliver those conversations on campus. Tanya Bolden Ball, Center for Minority Excellence program manager, said the format for the conversations would be ready this week. "It's just a statement he wanted to put out in light of the times," Payton said Tuesday, describing June's message as a response to what's happening in communities across the country. She said it was natural for SLCC to start conversations with faculty, staff, and students. In his message published on the SLCC website, June noticed that the campus is inclusive of all races, creeds, origins, and ancestries. Our differences in culture, opinion, and backgrounds are what make this college so special. These differences make us strong and provide us with an understanding of one another. I, like all of us, have a responsibility to affect change and promote equal justice in our communities and across our country," he said. June said his son, who is 14, had asked him several questions about the current state of events with respect to riots and protests, and that he felt himself paralyzed and not sinuous in my responses. Nonetheless, this is a tough conversation that must be had, and I plan to have this level of engagement with him shortly. The U.S. Constitution provides unalienable rights to all individuals. These rights cannot be ignored nor taken away. Know when I say this, racism and harassment in any form are not tolerated at SLCC. Virus deaths are up 34 across Louisiana. By Claire Taylor. Louisiana saw an uptick Tuesday in deaths attributed to state health officials to the coronavirus. 34 new deaths were reported statewide Tuesday by state officials, including one each in Lafayette and Acadia parishes. Only 4 new deaths were reported in Louisiana on Monday. Across the state, 2,724 people have died from COVID-19, including 170 in 7 Acadiana parishes, comprising of Louisiana Department of Health's Region 4, and that would be Lafayette, Acadia, Evangeline, Iberia, St. Landry, St. Martin, and Vermilion. Of the Region 4 deaths, 70% were white residents, 30% were Black. The Department of Health new cases across the state, bringing the total to 40,746. Fewer COVID-19 test results were reported Tuesday for Region 4, 341, then were reported Monday in Lafayette Parish alone at 533. As a result, the number of new confirmed cases dropped Tuesday to 24 in Acadiana, compared with 148 reported Monday. On Monday, the Borden Dairy Processing Facility in Lafayette confirmed that multiple employees at the facility had tested positive for coronavirus over the past week. The dairy outbreak coincided with a large number of new cases reported last week in Lafayette Parish, where the 7th-day rolling average of newly reported cases and the positive testing rate are both currently at levels not seen for weeks. Despite the dairy outbreak, the recent uptick in Lafayette is not tied to a particular location, according to Tina Stefanski, the Louisiana Department of Health Administrator in the Acadiana region. Stefanski said the recent Lafayette Parish cases are not like those last month in Acadia Parish, which were tied to crawfish processing plants. The large driver of this increase is not congregant settings, Stefanski said, of the Lafayette Parish cases. The biggest driver to the increase is outpatient or community spread. Stefanski said it's too early to tell if the recent increases represent a sustained trend. We don't want to make any big statements based on a couple of days of data. It's definitely a trend we will continue to watch. One injured in shooting on East Simcoe Monday night. Lafayette police said a shooting that left one person injured Monday night started with a verbal altercation. Officers were called to the 1600 block of East Simcoe Street about 10 p.m. to investigate a disturbance involving a firearm. Upon arrival, officers say they discovered the victim suffering. The victim was involved in a verbal altercation with 2 people when the shooting occurred. One assailant produced a handgun and shot the victim once. The victim was transported to a hospital and is listed in stable condition. According to police, the assailants fled the scene before officers arrived. An investigation into the shooting is ongoing. Abbeville Police investigating a fatal shooting. The Abbeville Police Department is investigating a fatal shooting that occurred on East Oak Street early Tuesday, according to a statement from the department. No details of the investigation were available from police. The identity of the victim has also not been released. Chief Spearman is asking for anyone with information regarding this homicide to contact the Abbeville Police Department. We encourage all of our citizens to stay vigilant and contact us if you need. In addition to dialing 911, you can contact us at 893-2511. You may contact our tips line at 892-6777. All callers remain anonymous, Spearman said in the statement. People may also send anonymous tips through the Tip 411 system at the department's Facebook page, www.facebook.com/Abbeville Police Department. By clicking on the Submit a Tip link on the department's official website, www.abbevillepd.com, or through the official Abbeville Police Department app. To contact a crime reporter at the Acadiana Advocate, email acadiananews@theadvocate.com, or you can call 337-534-0526. Okay. Virus fears delay emergency medical care by Youssef Radad. Stephanie Roussel was roused from her bed with a searing headache and a fever that heated to nearly 105 degrees within a few short hours. Her husband, Joe, gave her another Tylenol, put his wife in a bath, and placed a cool towel on her head, but the fever didn't budge. He called friends in the hospital up the road from their St. James Parish home, unsure whether to take his wife there or during one of the deadliest weeks of Louisiana's coronavirus outbreak. As she started to black out, he called 911. Medical responders brought her to the hospital where Stephanie Roussel, of 52 years old, was later diagnosed with bacterial meningitis, a serious infection that causes the brain and spinal cord to swell and is potentially fatal if untreated. My doctors told me it was a miracle I survived, she said from her home in Hester. Though Joe Roussel sought immediate care for his wife, a growing number of people are declining or delaying critical emergency treatment, which has raised alarms within the medical community. Cases and the numbers of people hospitalized for the coronavirus-borne illness, COVID-19, have dropped in Louisiana, but health experts suspect many patients are leery of setting foot in ambulances or hospitals because of the virus. In some cases, the experts say, a number of patients suffer emergencies like a heart attack or stroke and arrive in emergency rooms days later when their conditions worsen, leading to riskier medical procedures and a higher chance of lasting health problems. Most of it because they don't want to go because of the risk of COVID, said Acadiana Ambulance Service Chief Medical Officer Dr. Charles Brunell. That's how intense the fear is. In the past few weeks, the ambulance service saw roughly a quarter of patients refuse to go to the hospital, many citing fears about the virus, even after emergency workers told them they likely suffered a heart attack or stroke that can only be treated at a hospital. In a recent survey of 15 Louisiana hospitals, respondents noted declines in heart attack and stroke patients in the past few months, including a dozen facilities that reported admissions decreases in stroke centers by as much as 20 to 60% of their regular volume. Baton Rouge General Medical Center experienced a nearly 50% drop in emergency room admissions, according to the hospital, which typically saw about 160 emergency visitors daily before the pandemic. Dr. Johnny Jones, who heads emergency medicine at the hospital, pointed to a more troubling trend. A majority of patients who eventually come in days after a medical emergency when their conditions worsen. Untreated heart attacks and strokes are especially worrisome because doctors often have only a small window of time to treat them. When left unchecked, they can lead to lifelong disabilities and fatal complications, Jones said. A lot of those things can be prevented, which is frustrating to us. Acadiana officials have called the increase in emergency care refusals a potential health crisis with unknown lasting impacts. Among health experts, fears is a rise in deaths that are unrelated to the coronavirus and may have been avoidable. Natural deaths that don't appear to be tied to the virus rose by nearly 100 in March and April compared to the same months last year, according to data from the East Baton Rouge Parish Coroner's Office. But the limited amount of data is difficult to pinpoint an exact cause. Parish Coroner Dr. Bo Clark said the cases his office has investigated have been at the typical locations, such as hospitals, hospice centers, and nursing homes. Reassuring a nervous public that hospitals and ambulances are safe has vexed emergency health workers in hospitals, even though they've taken considerable measures to isolate safe passage to emergency care. At Our Lady of the Lake Regional Medical Center, Patients are immediately screened and isolated. Hospital staff treating COVID-19 patients are sequestered in one area of the hospital, and a disinfectant team frequently deploys to rooms with germ-killing UV lights and other sterilizers. The hospital is one of the safest places you can be in the city right now, said Jeff Mosley, who oversees the campuses and its buildings at Our Lady of the Lake. EMS providers have also increased their focus on disinfecting ambulances, providing masks for patients, and regularly screening their workers for symptoms. Aside from a few lingering ailments, Stephanie Roussel has been recovering from her meningitis infection since being released from Our Lady of the Lake on Easter Sunday, still unsure what caused it. During her stay, she was kept separate from other patients, and health workers limited their contact inside her room. Joe Roussel credited his wife's survival on promptly calling for help, as well as the staff of St. James Parish Hospital, who quickly found signs she was suffering from a bacterial infection. My wife wouldn't be alive if I didn't call, he said. Had we known the severity of it, I would have brought her sooner. AOC teams up with the United Way of Acadiana for Learn United. The United Way of Acadiana has teamed up with AOC and other educational groups for Learn United, bridging the digital gap to provide educational resources for households that don't have internet but do have television. The Learn United programs air weekdays from 8 to 2 on AOC2, Cox 16/LUS 4, and streaming at aocinc.org/watch. For the daily schedules and to submit content for the program, visit the United Way of Acadiana website, unitedwayofacadiana.org/learn -united. That would be unitedwayofacadiana.org/learn-united. Okay. So Megan White writes an article about replacing cooking with home-style takeout. Let's see. Many of us have been cooking more than usual ever since coronavirus restrictions began in Louisiana. If you'd like a break, but still want a meal that would make grandma proud, check out one of these plate lunches. You'll probably have enough left over to make a second meal. Hamburger steak. Beaulieu's Meat and Grocery is known for its boudin and cracklin, as well as its plate lunches. Try the hamburger steak plate lunch with choice of sides for $6.95. Beaulieu's is located at 111 East Main Street in Broussard. Call 337-837-6825 or visit facebook.com/Beaulieu's, and that's BILLEAUDS. How about shrimp stew? Bourre's restaurant is known for its brunch and barbecue, but it also serves us up many of the same plate lunches once offered at the owner's former restaurant, Papa T's Cafe in Lafayette. Try the shrimp stew with fried catfish for $15. Bourre is located at 1821 Chemie-Metairie Boulevard in Youngsville. Learn more by calling 337-450-9750 or visiting facebook.com Bourre Restaurant, and that's spelled Bourree. Fried chicken. Tons Drive-In is a fixture in downtown Broussard and an especially popular lunch choice for oilfield workers. Try the fried chicken plate with potatoes, white gravy, and choice of sides for only $8. Tons is located at 101 West Main Street in Broussard. Learn more by calling 337-837-6684 or visiting facebook.com/tons837-6684. Email Megan Wyatt at mwyatt@theadvocate.com if you would like to get more information or give more information. Bill to lower insurance rates has huge flaw. This is a story by Mark Ballard and Tyler Bridges. A last-minute addition tacked onto the bill aimed at lowering the cost of auto insurance policies by trimming the number of personal injury lawsuits is being touted as an unexpected boon for the injured individuals seeking recompense in Louisiana courts. Louisiana legislators rushed to give final approval to the Omnibus Premium Reduction Act of 2020, called tort reform by supporters, soon after negotiations broke down between Senate Bill 418's chief sponsor, State Senator Kirk Talbot, a Republican from River Ridge, and Democratic Governor John Bel Edwards to ward off a threatened veto fight that neither side is sure of winning. But the added wording in one section of the measure approved by the legislature is so awkward that it essentially creates a new cause of action and allows windfall awards, even for people whose injuries are not that severe. You could potentially collect $18,000 for a case with a $5,000 injury. Does that sound like tort reform to you? Said State Senator Jay Lanou, calculating from sample numbers to illustrate how the complex language works. That's what happens when you have people doing these amendments who don't know the law, Luno said. The Alexandria Democrat, who practices this type of law for a living and steadfastly opposed the legislation, found some agreement from the Louisiana Association of Business and Industry, one of Measure's most ardent supporters. We have become aware that a problematic provision was included in the conference report language at the last minute, and we are already in the process of working with legislative leaders to fix this language in the special session should the bill become law, tweeted LABI President Stephen Wagasback, who did not return calls Tuesday seeking comment. Predictably, perhaps, Luno and Wagasback disagree on whether Edwards should sign SB 418. Edwards resumed discussions Tuesday with Talbot. I think we can get something we're all comfortable with, Talbot said. While the bill passed both the House and the Senate, the margin was not wide enough to ensure that SB 418 would survive a possible veto by the governor in the coming days. Edwards is meeting with reporters Wednesday and will undoubtedly be asked whether he will veto Talbot's bill. The governor has 10 days after he receives the bill to veto, if that's what he's going to do, and that will leave about 10 days to mount an override. If Edwards signs the bill, Republicans would have limited time to rush through changes that would address the bill's problems before the special session is over at the end of the month. Edwards met with Talbot on Saturday, the latest of several meetings, and also had Matthew Block, his executive counsel, meet with Talbot several times. Also involved was Harry Skip Phillips, a partner with the Taylor Porter law firm in Baton Rouge. Talbot said Phillips assisted him pro bono at Talbot's request. Phillips did not respond to a request for an interview. They met at 1 p.m. Monday in the Senate basement to have Talbot provide the latest version drafted by him and his legislative and business allies. The two sides agreed they will meet again in an hour. That meeting never took place. But Talbot instead put together a final version of the bill that included new language without Block's input. The legislature approved that version just before the regular session adjourned at 6 p.m. The governor is disappointed we weren't able to come to some agreement on this after working not only the entirety of the session, but especially during the past 4 days, Block said in an interview. The governor was trying to reach a compromise, trying to reach an agreement. I'm not sure that the other sources behind the bill, especially lobby, were interested in getting a deal done. Block said that Edwards agreed to reduce the jury threshold more than halfway below the current level of $50,000, the highest in the country. Edwards agreed to Talbot's language on seatbelts, but they had differences over what is called collateral source. Legislation limits what injured parties can be awarded as medical damages to what they actually paid, rather than what the treatment is listed as costing. Because insurance companies contract with specific doctors at lower prices, under the collateral source rule, someone with insurance coverage would receive less money than someone without adequate insurance. The final conference report, the one presented to lawmakers to approve as the clock was ticking toward adjournment, wording was added that allowed injured plaintiffs with insurance coverage to receive reimbursement for at least a year, but up to 18 months of premiums at a rate of 1.5 times the monthly cost. Basically, if an injured party buys a family health insurance policy for $1,000 a month, that person could receive $18,000 in additional damages. The addition, aimed apparently at incentivizing the purchase of healthcare insurance, wasn't in the version discussed at 1 p.m. The wording says shall, therefore is mandatory, but also includes up to, which makes the wording discretionary. The courts are going to have to wade in and sort out the meaning of conflicting language if SB 418 becomes law. State Representative Alan Seabaugh, a Republican from Shreveport, who had been a strong supporter of the bill, said the inclusion of this provision surprised him and caused him to freeze in uncertainty. He couldn't support the bill, but didn't want to be the only Republican to vote against it. I just couldn't figure out what I was trying to do, Seabaugh said Tuesday, in explaining why he did not cast a vote on the bill. Senator Peterson quietly ousts gambling board chairman by Tyler Bridges. In March 2019, State Senator Karen Carter Peterson was forced to acknowledge publicly that she was a gambling addict after she violated a state gambling board rule that she not enter Louisiana casinos. On Monday, in an extraordinary power play, Peterson ousted the highly regarded chairman of the gambling board, Ronnie Jones, during a private session of the Louisiana Senate, where senators could exercise a little-known authority to veto appointees of Governor John Bel Edwards and other statewide elected officials to dozens of boards and commissions. Besides representing New Orleans in the Senate, Peterson is the longtime chairwoman of the Louisiana Democratic Party. So her surprise decision also puts her at odds with Edwards, the state's most prominent Democrat. On Tuesday, he sharply criticized the failure to confirm Jones without mentioning Peterson. Peterson's move, which she has not explained publicly, targeted Jones and 4 other appointees, including Walt Ledger III, a former colleague in the legislature and Speaker pro tem, who has now lost his job as chairman of the Ernest N. Morial Convention Center in New Orleans. I felt blindsided and somewhat betrayed by the process, Jones said in an interview Tuesday, adding that he can't explain why he was removed. Jones said he has attempted both last year and this year to explain to Peterson that he had nothing to do with the public revelation that she had voluntarily put herself on a secret list of people who cannot enter a Louisiana casino to try to control her gambling problem, but then had been caught on the floor of La Barge Casino in Baton Rouge. She did not give me the courtesy of a meeting, Jones said. Peterson also did not alert the governor's office about her concerns with Jones, Ledger, and the 4 others, a breach of senatorial courtesy. Had she done so, Edwards could have tried to smooth relations or withdrawn the nominees before the confirmation session. Peterson's move leaves the gambling board without a chairman at a time when Jones was overseeing the reopening of the state's casinos. The convention center board is also leaderless now while grappling with how to recover from a collapse of its business and push forward with plans to spend hundreds of millions of dollars to refurbish the state facility, upgrade Convention Center Boulevard, and possibly build a massive hotel. If you are feeling overwhelmed with stress, fear, and anxiety about the uncertainty surrounding this public health emergency, there is a special Keeping Calm Through COVID hotline you can call. This connects you to trained, compassionate counselors who can offer support and who can direct you to mental health and substance abuse counseling services. Trained counselors are available 24/7, and all calls are confidential. So if you're having some problems, please call 866-310-7977. And that would be 866-310-7977. So today in history, today is Wednesday, June 3rd, the 155th day of 2020. There are 211 days left in the year. So on June 3rd, 1965, Edward H. White became the first American to walk in space during the flight of Gemini 4. In 1861, on this date, Illinois Senator Stephen A. Douglas, the Democratic presidential nominee in 1860 election, died in Chicago of typhoid fever. He was 48 years old. In 1943, Los Angeles saw the beginning of its Zoot Suit riots as white servicemen clashed with young Latinos wearing distinctive-looking zoot suits. The violence finally ended when military officials declared the city off limits to enlisted personnel. In 1962, Air France Flight 007, a U.S.-bounding Boeing 707, crashed while attempting to take off from the Orly Airport near Paris. All but 2 of the 132 people aboard were killed. In 1963, Pope John XXIII died at age 81. He was succeeded by Pope Paul VI. In 1977, the United States and Cuba agreed to set up diplomatic interest sections in each other's countries. Cuba also announced the immediate release of 10 Americans jailed on drug charges. In 1989, Iran's spiritual leader, Ayatollah Ruhollah Khomeini, died. On the same day, Chinese army troops began their sweep of Beijing to crush student-led pro-democracy demonstrations. In 2008, Barack Obama claimed the Democratic presidential nomination, speaking in the same St. Paul, Minnesota arena where Republicans would be holding their national convention in September of 2008. In 2016, heavyweight boxing champion Muhammad Ali died at a hospital in Scottsdale, Arizona, at the age of 74. 10 years ago, BP sliced off a pipe with giant shears to make way for a cap in the latest bid to curtail the worst oil spill in U.S. history. 5 years ago, the Pentagon disclosed that it had inadvertently shipped possibly live anthrax to at least 51 laboratories across the U.S. and in 3 foreign countries over the previous decade, but said public health was not at risk. 1 year ago today, viewers of Jeopardy saw James Holzhauer, a professional sports gambler and trivia whiz, end a 32-game winning streak by losing for the first time. Also, California Governor Gavin Newsom overruled the parole board's decision to free Charles Manson following Leslie Van Houten. It was the third time a governor I'm sorry, let me go back and read this again. I read it wrong. California Governor Gavin Newsom overruled a parole board's decision to free Charles Manson follower Leslie Van Houten. It was the third time a governor had stopped the release of the youngest member of Manson's murderous cult. Okay, today's birthdays. Author Larry McMurtry is 84 years old. Rock singer Ian Hunter of Mott the Hoople is 81. World Golf Hall of Famer Hal Irwin is 75. Singer Denise Williams is 70. Rock musician Kerry King of Slayer is 56. TV host Anderson Cooper is 53. Rhythm and blues singer Life Jennings is 47. Tennis player Rafael Nadal is 34. And our thought for the day is by Jefferson Davis, a Confederate president from 1808 to 1889. He said, "Never be haughty to the humble, never be humble to the haughty." That's an interesting quote. All right. Are we ready for our horoscope for the day? Let me pull it up here. Here's a bit slow. So, our zodiac for the day, June 3rd, is as follows: Gemini, use your connections to your advantage. Reconnect with someone who may have a lead on a position that might interest you. Don't take a risk and protect yourself against injury and illness. Cancer, take time to explore new possibilities. A challenge will motivate you to start something that encourages you to use creative skills to benefit you mentally as well as financially. Leo, you may not like a change that's taking place, but in the end, there will be benefits you did not anticipate. Sit tight and let things unfold naturally. Romance is on the rise. Virgo, go about your business and stay out of trouble. Refuse to get involved in someone else's drama. Clear thoughts will prompt wise moves. A personal change will enhance your life. Libra, discipline will pay off. Do your best to learn all you can about an interest you want to pursue. Personal growth, physical improvements, and a new beginning look promising. Scorpio, it's time to update some of your diehard beliefs before moving forward. Times and trends are changing, and updating your goals and how you go about achieving your dreams is encouraged. Sagittarius, being secretive will benefit you in the end. Only share what's necessary and protect those you love from an outside interference. A financial plan will turn out better than anticipated. Capricorn, don't disregard what others do for you. Offering praise and credit for a job well done will encourage others to continue to please you. Be smart and reap the benefits. Aquarius, channel emotional energy into something creative or unique. How you spend your time will determine how much trouble you encounter. Idle time is the enemy. Personal improvement and romance are encouraged. Pisces, look for creative outlets. Learning something new, consulting with an expert, spending time teaching others, or expanding your personal and professional options will help you feel good about your future. Aries, don't quibble over something that doesn't matter. If you overreact, you will end up having regrets. Look at what you can do well and concentrate on personal goals. Taurus, it's okay to do things differently. Step outside your comfort zone and you will push yourself to make the adjustments necessary to get ahead. Turn your dreams into reality. Remember that the horoscope is an entertainment feature and is not based on scientific fact. If you've lost your job or if you have reduced hours, you may be eligible for Medicaid. You can apply online at mymedicaid.la.gov. You can also apply by phone by calling 888-342-6207. That's 888-342-6207, or by mail by sending information to Louisiana Medicaid Post Office Box 91283, Baton Rouge, Louisiana 70821. Local Medicaid offices are currently closed to the public. If additional assistance is needed, you can call 888-342-6207. For the latest COVID-19 updates and information, please visit www.311lafayette.services. Call centers with volunteers and medical professionals are active. Are active 24/7 to answer your questions about COVID-19 and determine if you need to get screened. You may also call 311 and press option 2 if you're a business owner, employee, or are looking for a job to get information about applying for small business recovery loans, apply for unemployment benefits, and related programs. And of course, if your hours are being reduced at work or you've been laid off from employment, you may qualify for unemployment insurance benefits. If you're attempting to apply for unemployment insurance and are not able to access an existing online account, or you need help resetting your password, call Lafayette's Acadiana Workforce Solutions at 337-262-5601. Of course, due to high call volume, some calls may not be answered immediately, but call again at a later time or contact one of Louisiana's other local offices for assistance. That would be www.laworks.net/downloads. In addition, individuals looking for supplemental income can consider local employment opportunities with businesses who are seeking temporary part-time and full-time workers by visiting the COVID-19 Help Wanted resource page at www.lafayette.org/help wanted. That's all the news we have for you today. It is Wednesday, June 3rd. I want to encourage everyone out there to be safe, wear a mask. I have been out and about, well, not too much. A lot of people are not wearing masks when they go into stores and to restaurants. Remember that we are not just protecting ourselves, but we're also protecting the other people that are working in our community. So let's all band together and do that in this time when we need that more than ever. Thank you. Back to you, Matt.
And that will wrap up local live news local for this morning. Thanks everybody for tuning in, and thanks to Nan for reading.